Hello my friends, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another review. I hope everyone's doing well. We've got a heat wave over here in the UK, so I've just been enjoying the hot weather. We only usually get about 4 days a year, so we've already had our quotient for this year. So today I'm going to be talking to you yet again about Mike and Natalie. And at this point, I really don't know where to go with Natalie. Her attitude smells worse than a rotting corpse, which is extremely bad news for her because soon enough she'll be able to smell it. So yet again I'm going to break down Natalie's stinking behaviour and together we'll try and work out what she's playing at. But right before I do, please if you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button. Sleep at night with the security of knowing you'll never ever miss a video. And also if you enjoy the video, please don't forget to smash the like button. Also thank you once again to all the funny comments that have been coming, especially on my Ronald and Tiffany series. I've got another video coming to you guys from that tomorrow, and I just may do a subscribers opinions video on that at the end of the series just because I've had such funny comments. So let me know if that's something you'd like to see. So yes, without further ado, I give you Mike and Natalie. And we first catch up with the world's most turgid pair of imbeciles at home, back on Mike's ranch. And Natalie lets us know it's been 1 week since her surgery. And she tells us, Michael's been acting really strangely with me. And guys, I'm looking at her nose and pretty much except for her nostrils looking even bigger than they did before, it looks pretty much the same to me. I actually took the liberty of pulling up several other videos so I could compare and contrast, and yeah, it's the same. But what's real interesting about that is her nose doesn't look the same now on photos. Maybe she's just photoshopped it. Maybe she has got a talent after all. Maybe instead of translating documents, she can just photoshop them. She's going to need some way to make money because Mike's about to flip her out on her ear. Mind you, I suppose maybe her nose does grow and contract with the lies that she tells. That's also very possible. So we catch up with Mike and he's out in the front yard and is flipping over a massive tyre. He's wearing his 1980s workout gear, but is still lumbering around, as Mike does, and is looking mighty pissed off. And I was just thinking about Mike, and I was just thinking the other day, I wonder if Mike has any talents. And I couldn't really come up with any, but then I thought looking pissed off whilst doing any given task is something that just sprang to mind, and I realised he does it like no other. Remember last week when he was making that prison slop for Natalie? He looked pissed off. He was turning the light off for her. Again, he looks pissed off. He was pissed off the day he was getting married and pissed off the day he was engaged. And I'm trying to remember if there were ever a time when he didn't look pissed off. And do you know what, guys? I can't. If you can, comments down below, please. I don't expect to see much. So Natalie comes out to join him and he's got a small tyre for her to flip over. And she begins flipping it over and she asks, does this help to lose weight? And Mike said, well, it's to help to build muscle, yeah? Well then stop, Mike, because you need to lose weight. Either that or get a bra. And so they're flipping these tyres, both looking as miserable as sin. And Mike tells production, it's been a week since the surgery. We know. And I'm really upset with the situation. I haven't said anything to Natalie as yet, because she's been recovering. No, Mike, you haven't said anything because you're passive aggressive. You don't do confrontation properly. In fact, you walk away from it. That's why you haven't said anything. And I haven't forgotten that it took you 1 week to talk to her about Hookergate. And she wasn't convalescing then. She was just walking around your ranch, happy as Larry. In fact, more than likely, making plans on spending your money on this nose of hers. So Mike, this is just a friendly warning. Do yourself a favour. Stop making excuses as to why you don't pull Natalie up on things and start pulling her up on things immediately as she does them. Real time. And Mike said to Natalie, how are you? And she said, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really fine. I'm really glad that my nose is done and everything's great with me. And then Mike moans onto production once again. She didn't answer my calls and left me without a vehicle. I don't think any wife should treat any husband like that. It was extremely painful and I've still received no apology from her. Mike, if it's an apology you're waiting for, please don't hold your breath. You'll turn blue and be 6 foot under before you get it. And Mike was lumbering around, looking completely hangdog, so much so that Natalie ended up having to say, Mike, is something wrong? And he said, yeah, I'm still upset with the hospital issue. And Natalie said, why? As if she's got no idea what he's talking about. And he said, you left me high and dry. And then Natalie said, I was afraid that we might fight and I didn't want to get into an argument, so I left before anything could happen. I just wanted to be by myself. Oh, that's interesting, Natalie. I'll let Juliana know that she means nothing to you, that her presence on planet Earth isn't noted by you, because you weren't by yourself. You were with Juliana and her husband. And incidentally, God knows who else. And she said, We got into an argument like we always do. Liar! Natalie, you lie. Because you guys only argue when you partake in the argument. Mike, as you point out, either just walks away or he closes down. He doesn't really argue, and especially not for prolonged periods of time. Mike's more of a sulker, but he's not an arguer. And I also do not believe that Mike was trying to argue with you or trying to press buttons on the night before your surgery. I don't buy it. And then Natalie continued her lies to production. She said Michael doesn't understand. He doesn't understand that I didn't want to argue the night before my surgery. He did understand that, Natalie. You didn't give him the chance. But he's not just pointing out the fact that you disappeared. He knew you stalked out of the hotel. That wasn't the source of his ire. The problem that he had was the fact that you used his car. You could have got a taxi to Juliana's, but no, you used his truck. You left him without a vehicle. He had to go and track his own vehicle down. And also the following morning, once he had presumably calmed down, you were still blanking his calls right up until going into surgery. The only time he took a call from you was when you'd finished surgery and you needed a lift home. So let's have it right, Natalie. Let's have it right. And Mike said, why didn't you give me a lift to the hospital? And I would have waited in the waiting room like a normal husband. Why didn't you just call me? And then Natalie looked to the left and looked to the right and said, yeah, I remember when I got there, one of the doctors, the doctor, that's it, the doctor, he said to me, Natalie, no matter what you do, don't think about anyone else, focus on yourself, focus on healing, focus on your nose, focus on the operation, don't worry about anybody else or what they're doing, now's the time for you. Again, liar. Natalie, you always focus on yourself, nobody would ever need to say that to you, ever. And then Mike said, but Natalie, you asked me to take the week off work, to take you to your operation, to bring you home, and then to look after you for a week. That's what you asked me to do. And he got so exasperated with her ridiculous brand of lies that he started walking away. And Natalie said, Michael always says we need better communication, but every time we speak, he walks away. What's the logic? And then finally she says to production, it's my health and I decide how I act towards it. Mike should understand this. I'm emotionally exhausted. I'm not sure this relationship is fixable and I'm not sure this relationship is worth it. Oh, I'm sure it's worth it for another couple of weeks, Natalie, just until you get your green card, then I know you'll be off ski. And that's where we leave proceedings for this week. And so what does the Ebird make to all of this? Well, I thought it last week and I'm even more convinced now. Natalie wants out of this relationship. And instead of just being honest and say, things aren't working out, Mike, yeah, I think we should split up, she wants to try and convince herself, or us, the viewer, and in fact anyone who happens to be watching, that it's all Mike's fault and that Mike's simply impossible. Now don't get me wrong, Mike's far from ideal, but with Natalie pushing your buttons, is it any wonder? Mike wants something from Natalie that she's just not interested in. He wants to be her rock, and I guess in some senses he is, as in, as dumb as her. And as in, useless inanimate object. Mike, she has no further use for you. What you thought was going to happen has happened. Why Mike was prevaricating about getting married was not because he didn't know if he loved her. He kind of knew. She looks down on me. She thinks I'm trash. She only wants me for this ring and this green card. And that's why he was hell-bent on her just overstaying her visa and seeing how things went. And unfortunately, what he thought was going to happen is happening. She's dragged it along 6 months. She's made as much trouble as she possibly can. And the moment she gets that green card, she's going to be gone. So yeah, that's it. It's my contention that Natalie just wants out. But instead of going gracefully and like a lady, she's going to go out like a little punk. She's both classless and unseemly. But Mike, of course Mike, I've got to lay some of the blame at your door. Because you give what's known as consequence-free bad behaviour. She can do whatever she wants and it takes you at least a week to work up the bollocks to actually take her to task about it. Mike, be more assertive. It took you a week to work your way up to talking about Hookergate and another week for Truckgate. If Natalie knows she can behave any old how and it's going to be completely consequence-free, what reason is there for her to behave? And yes, Natalie is a nightmare, but this, ladies and gentlemen, that we're seeing here is the consequences of your actions. Mike, when you decide to have a midlife crisis on a budget, this is what happens. You knew you were punching, but you didn't even attempt to soften the blow. Cleaning your house when Natalie came over might have been a nice touch. Maybe a bit of decoration and cleaning all the trash that's outside of the house and all the bits of wood and whatever it is you've got outside your house, maybe clearing that away might have done something for you. So I think, Mike, the best way out for you now is to finish with Natalie forthwith. give her enough money to rent an apartment somewhere and let her go. I know your mum said give her $5,000 and send her back to the Ukraine. Unfortunately, Trish, neither you nor Mike are ICE. And so it's for the authorities to decide if she's allowed to stay in the country or not. And the truth be told, there are probably more pressing people to deport than Natalie. But Mike, here's a little something to cheer you up. If you're ever feeling down about the way Natalie's treated you and what's transpired in your relationship, simply download the penultimate episode of last season's 90 Day Fiance. You know, the episode where you jilted Natalie at the altar, i.e. in a dirty field. I think the official title was Mike's a Monster! Yes, that's it. The one where she was crying and prevaricating and snotting towards the camera. I'm very sure watching that 2 or 3 times a day will lift your spirits. I'm so nasty. But guys, she deserves it. So like the Ebird said a couple of months ago, Natalie has but 2 settings. The Arctic or the surface of the fucking sun. My advice to you, Mike, is to wrap up very warm. It's going to be a long, cold winter. So guys, let me know what you think. Do you think all of this is to just press Mike's buttons and that she wished that Mike had gone home and left her so she could blame yet some more on Mike's bad behaviour? I certainly think so. And also, do you think Mike was right to leave it a whole week before addressing her behaviour? She had a couple of bandages which she put herself onto her nose. I don't think that operation was that much of a big deal. He could have said it after 2 or 3 days. And do you think consequence-free bad behaviour is making Natalie worse and worse? I certainly think it is. And I wouldn't be having a bar of it if I were Mike. So let me know what you think in comments down below and I will get on with my next video. It's going to be a long one, the next one. Another Ronald and Tiffany. And so yes, that's everything. Please like, subscribe and all of that good stuff. And I will see you very soon. Thank you guys so much for listening. You've been listening to Ebird Online and I bid you good day.